Hey there and welcome into my channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So today's topic is it time to switch to Linux? Like for everyone. But before we get to that, shout out to the longest ever comment I have ever received in my roughly 300 videos that I have created so far. Thank you, man, for taking the time to type the whole docx document. Yeah, so let's go back to the topic at hand. Linux in 2025. Is it time for everyone to switch to Linux? And well, there are a couple of points that I want to discuss here. State of Linux today, hardware support, gaming improvements, applications, and maybe a little bit of future outlook from my head, right? So, what is the state of Linux today? How would you describe this? Like always, I don't really have a script. This is entirely coming out live from my head. And I will tell you that I have been using Linux for more than a couple of years, more than a couple. And it has been improving steadily ever since. Like, I remember hacking. I mean, I wasn't a hacker, to be honest, but a lot of people have been hacking into wireless drivers, trying to get Wi-Fi working on Linux, and it was kind of a difficult times compared to what it is today. Fast forward too many years, and what is Linux today? It's something that you don't even think about. If you choose the right distribution, usually it just works. You just pop the stick inside your laptop or your desktop computer, you press the install button, you do the next. If you don't care about partitioning and stuff like that, everything is going to be done for you. Your swap will be set up. You don't know what swap is? Exactly that. Linux does everything for you. You don't have to know what swap is. And everything just works. Like I mean, we can immediately skip to hardware support because these things are kind of connected as topics. The most important thing on an operating system is the kernel, and what I mean by the kernel is actually drivers. So if you want to install your operating system, in this case Linux, to your specific hardware, you want your computer to be fully functional. You want your Wi-Fi to work. You want your graphics card to work. You want your sound blaster to work. You want your screen to work properly. There are a couple of things. See here. Drawing tablet from Wacom. I have purchased this from a friend just recently, and I wasn't even sure if this is properly supported on Linux, but it turns out this thing just works. Literally, I just plugged it in, fired up Krita on my KDE desktop, and everything was automatically set up. My screen was calculated automatically, like for the size of the screen, right? And if I would go with the pen to this part, it would automatically aim for that exact part on the real screen. If I would take it back here, it would automatically go back down here. And it's kind of awesome where we stand today, so immediately from hardware standpoint, the next stop was gaming support nowadays, right? I'm going to get to that as a transition any moment now. So pretty much every Wi-Fi card works nowadays. All of the CPUs are supported, and pretty rapidly for that matter. Intel and AMD cards are well supported, way ahead of schedule, right? So when the RDNA 4 graphics cards, the one that you know nowadays as 9070, 9070 XT, 9060, when these were preparing to be launched, in the following months or half a year, already drivers were baked into the Linux kernel, so that if you would be using like a half a year old Linux distribution and a half a year old kernel with your new graphics card for whatever reason, you would be having at least partial support for this graphics card to work. Of course, you would need to update your kernel on the purchase date so that you have the latest drivers, but generally speaking, the support is there. Also, NVIDIA drivers are top notch nowadays. They were having some troubles like 2 years ago and beyond into, well, I would say tracking the Wayland development. If you don't know what Wayland is, don't pay too much attention to that name just yet. In this video, it doesn't matter that much. Suffice to say, it is a new way how your display works on Linux. Okay, it has. I mean, it's not that new. It's like more than 10 years old. But the fact is, nowadays Linux has been pushing this new way of displaying image on your screen pretty rapidly, and all of the drivers are absolutely in the need to supporting this new protocol. And NVIDIA was the last a piece of the puzzle to this, and for the past 2 years they have been at pretty good spot. For the past 1 year they have had like excellent support, and now with the latest 580 driver, the support for Linux and for all of the new stuff has been absolutely amazing. So if you are running the latest NVIDIA driver and whatever from today's day forward, right, you will have an amazing support on Linux, even with NVIDIA. So, like mentioning the graphics card, right? We are getting into the gaming territory. And not just gaming, but also some development like CUDA stuff. CUDA is absolutely supported on Linux, even more so than on Windows. So if you're doing anything in regards to AI development, you will want to have Linux, because Windows is not designed for this kind of workflow. Even on Windows, if you do develop these things on Windows, chances are you're going to be running Windows subsystem for Linux in order to get some CUDA stuff working. So, not to brag too much about that, what is the state of gaming support? Like I'm gonna be very honest and straightforward. There are some things that don't work, and the things that don't work is not that they don't work because they haven't been developed. It's just that some gaming companies are how do I put it? I want to pull a nasty name for them, but I shouldn't be swearing. I mean the profanity on YouTube. That's not a good idea. But let's say that some companies like Activision with the Call of Duty, Bungie with their Destiny, Epic Games with Fortnite and stuff like that, they all need anti-cheat, and it's not that anti-cheat doesn't work. For example, the Epic Games Fortnite that uses easy anti-cheat. Easy anti-cheat has support for Linux, but Epic Games doesn't allow it. I mean, Epic Games doesn't enable it in their own game, in the Fortnite. So that's kind of a sucky situation. BattlEye anti-cheat is fully supported on Linux, but the Bungie doesn't want to enable support for BattlEye in their own game, which is Destiny, right? So as far as I'm concerned, that game can die. Similar situation is with the Call of Duty. They have a third version of anti-cheat, which I'm not sure if it's supported on Linux technically or not, but suffice to say this game doesn't work. And there are a couple of more games that use anti-cheat that simply don't want to enable the support for Linux. They don't want to flip the switch. What are the reasoning? We can just guess, right? But suffice to say, like I don't know. Sea of Thieves is one of my favorite games, and this game uses easy anti-cheat, the same one as in Fortnite. This game works on Linux and it's fully supported. They have official support for Linux and for Steam Deck. If you watch one of my older videos, you will see what happened one day is that they have been having an update to the game and they broke the support for Linux by accident, and they announced on Twitter how they are aware of the problem and they are working on a fix. And in a matter of couple of days, they fixed the problem that they caused on Linux. So I'm just telling you that these companies tend to care about Linux. They are actually giving you prime support for their game on Linux, for their anti-cheat on Linux, everything, like everything included, even the kitchen sink. But there are some companies that just don't care and they don't want to care. So the way we can maybe fight against this is by gaming on Linux instead of Windows. If you're dual booting, like why don't you just game on Linux? And why I'm saying this is because everything else works. Like 99% of video games actually work fantastic on Linux, especially if you run them through Steam. It's usually just a download, wait for the progress bar of download to finish, click play, voila, you're playing, you're in the game. In the most horrible scenario where you are playing a game that just came out today, uh, there might happen that the Proton compatibility layer, you don't know what Proton is, doesn't matter. It's just something that Valve, as a Steam development company, has like invented for us to have support for Windows game to work on Linux. That's pretty much enough for this video without further explanation. So you just download the latest Doom game, run it on Linux, and it works. There are some other versions of Proton that are community maintained, like Glorious Eggroll version of Proton. This one tends to be more rapidly tuned to the latest video games. So in some cases, you will want to swap the Proton version from the official Valve version to the GE version, but that happens so rarely that I forgot when was the last time that I did that. Literally, I don't remember. And even if you would need that, it's just a couple of clicks. So nothing that would halt you in playing video games on Linux. So I stand by what I'm saying. If you have an AMD graphics card, I can guarantee you that except for the games that by politics refuse to function on Linux, not that they can't, they would work if they would enable the anti-cheat, but everything else just works on AMD cards. On NVIDIA cards, sometimes there is a week or two delay when the Proton is getting updates to make a little bit more compatibility with NVIDIA graphics cards. Sometimes it's not needed, sometimes the games work out of the gate day one. But generally, AMD is a slightly better experience, NVIDIA is slightly worse experience, but overall pretty good. Intel graphics card also very good, just like AMD's cards, but not many people really game on Intel's graphics cards, so it is what it is, right? If you're switching from Windows to Linux, then chances are you have NVIDIA card, because that one is actually more popular on the other side of the operating system. But as I have been saying for the past few minutes, support for both graphics card is really good. I have been playing exclusively on Linux for the past couple of years, and it has been an absolute flawless experience with AMD card. With NVIDIA card, I'm gonna say it once again, sometimes not everything is working perfectly. For example, Cyberpunk video game, I tried I have a 5000 Blackwell NVIDIA card now. I have tried the what do you call it, frame generation 4X, and it works, but on Linux I get some weird microstutters, which is something that I haven't really managed to clear properly. I did, but in a the way that you might not really like. On Windows, my computer, I have Ryzen 5 800X3D, so 5800, right? X3D. So it's an older gaming CPU. Not that old, but like generations behind. Pretty good still. So Cyberpunk in 4K mode with all of the options enabled except path tracing. So ray tracing to ultra, but not path tracing. What is it called? Psycho ray tracing, something like that. I didn't enable that. So everything else enabled to the max with 4K resolution, but I use DLSS. What is the name of the latest model? The C one. It starts with the name C. I don't know the latest DLSS model that comes with DLSS 4, right? I enabled everything like that and the performance mode, and I get with the frame generation enabled. Well, basically, I get whatever frame rate I want, right? Without frame generation, it goes above 60. With frame generation, 2 times I go above my monitor refresh rate, which is 120. And if I enable 3 or 4 times frame generation, then it jumps all the way to 200 and whatever. It's not real frames, it's fake frames, but generally when you have 60 frames, the base value, you're pretty good with the mouse responsiveness. It's not a competitive video game. You don't need the microseconds, right? It works stellar, like absolutely stellar with this hardware. On Linux, it's fairly similar in terms of numbers, but I do get some weird stutter when I enable all of these options. So what I ended up doing is I kind of lowered um, my refresh rate limit to 40. This is this is what affects my input latency a little bit. And then with the frame generation, I ramped it up to 120. So visually it looks like it's 120, but on the mouse it feels like 40, right? If you know what 40 feels like on your mouse, you will know what I did. But generally, I tend to play this video game more with a controller, not because I enjoy the controller more, but because I tend to lie down in my chair. I'm in this chair, but I just put it down like I'm watching a movie or something, and then I cannot reach my keyboard anymore. And this is where the controller comes into play, because I can stretch it around with the cable. And on the controller, I really don't feel 40 FPS of input latency, whatever the latency is. So that's how I play, because uh, getting the frame rate limiter to slightly below what my graphics card can do gives me some sort of well, the system is not 100% loaded, right? And for some reason, when I do that, then I don't have the micro stutter anymore. I'm just saying from experience what's going on. If you have more experience than I do, please share. I want to tune my system better than it already is. But I'm not dissatisfied, right? It's pretty good. With the games that are less severely affecting my performance. Like, I mean, even with Cyberpunk, if I don't use the ultra ray tracing, if I tone it down a little bit, then I don't have the microstutter anymore. So even with 60 FPS base, rendering. So I think that's going to be it from me with the gaming part, right? But there are a couple of more things to talk about. Applications. So with the all of the popular distributions like Fedora, Ubuntu, Debian, Arch Linux, I don't know what. I was going to say Slackware, but that's not popular anymore, to be honest. All of the mainstream Linux distribution have their own packages, and within those packages, you get all kinds of, open source and free um, software, right? We know what I'm saying. And sometimes you need something that is not free software. Flatpak system, if you go to Flathub website, you will see, you can type in their search bar any application name and see if it's there. Usually it is, because a lot of software developer actually do care about Linux, and lately the Flatpak system has become really, really popular, and it's like a cross distribution compatible. Well, it feels a little bit like a distribution on top of your distribution, right? So if you use Flatpak versions of applications, you're not really running like, let's say that you're on Arch Linux. If you install an Arch Linux package, that's like a native Arch package. If you install something from Flathub on Arch Linux, you're not really running this application. It's not really an Arch application anymore. It's more like a application coming from a Flathub distribution. I mean, it's still a native package in terms of binary on Linux, but what I'm saying is that the applications coming from Flathub are pulling their own libraries, so they don't really use libraries on your own system. So you kind of have double of everything, like same libraries on your Arch Linux, same libraries on the Flathub, and now you have two copies of the same thing. Sometimes you end up like with 5 copies of the same thing, because some of the Flathub applications use this version of this library, while this Flathub application uses the same library, but not that version, but another version. So each one pulls its own version from the Flathub, and now you end up with this library of this version, of that version, and another one that is natively distributed with your distribution, let's say Arch Linux. So from that perspective, it may sound a little bit shit, but generally this is not that dissimilar to what Windows does. A lot of applications tend to bundle their own libraries, DLLs, and it is what it is. That's how they do it. It's easier to manage, it's easier to package, and it's kind of a cross-platform in the terms of cross. I meant cross distribution, right? Not the other operating system, but the versions of Linux. So from that perspective, you're getting a whole lot of applications, and you should give it a try. If you aren't already on Linux, you should give it a try. It's really stellar where we are at the moment, and this year is especially interesting for Linux users and Linux wannabe users, because of the Windows 10 support already ended as the day of the release of this video. It has ended a couple of days ago. So right now, if you're still using Windows 10, you are potentially exposing yourself to various threats. Maybe yes, maybe not. You just can't know until you get infected with something, which is, you couldn't uh, affect it because you didn't get any security updates for your operating system, simply because Microsoft is no longer giving you security updates anymore for Windows 10. If you're on Windows 11, kudos to you. It is what it is. But if you are thinking about switching to Linux, there are plenty of tutorials out there. Start with Zorin operating system, start with Ubuntu, start with Mint. Learn something, learn how to install the distribution, learn how to do the partitioning if you want to have like one partition for all of your stuff, like video games and your personal files. Put that under /home. Put everything else under /, which is like a root folder where your system lies, so you can have two partitions separate. If you want to reinstall something, you can reinstall it without deleting your home partition where your stuff is. If you are unsure how much, if you have root partition and home partition and you're unsure how much space to give to that one or this one, maybe just use the butter file system, BTRFS. This is a file system that gives you the possibility to give the entire hard drive space to both of your partitions. And how is that? It's not magic. It's just that the way it works is you have 1 TB of space on your SSD, and you give both 1 TB to your system partition, and you give 1 TB to your home partition, but it's not 2 terabytes. It's still 1 terabyte. But the way it works is if you put something on your system partition, it kind of you load it up like with data, but in parallel your home partition tracks it. So if you put something in your home partition, like a couple of video games, then the usage percentage of the system partition also goes up. But the advantage of this way of doing things is that you're going to be able to fill up your hard drive to 100%. Don't do that, but if you really want to, you can. You know, when you get to the end of the you remember when you did like CD partitions on Windows, you would put too little space on one partition and you would fill it up, and now you would need to resize the partitions. So you would give a little bit more space to this partition, a little bit less to that partition, and then you would put it back as it was later when you uninstall some. You don't need to do that with BTRFS, Butterfile System. You just fill it up to the 100%, and now it's filled up, you know. So that's kind of cool. There are all sorts of tricks with Linux that you can learn, you know. And once you're done with learning the basic distributions, which I just mentioned, these are like my recommendations. You can check them out on this video. Then you can cross to like mid-tier distributions in terms of distributions that give you slightly more control and require slightly more learning from you. But in general, you're going to progress over time with the Linux distributions. It's not that big of a deal. Come to my Matrix chat. It's linked down below in this video. We are going to give you a hand. No questions asked, no strings attached. Just come to our chat, ask questions. You know, whatever is bothering you, the community will help you. Not just my community, anyone's you know, Linux community. You might eventually come across someone who feels like it's a little bit toxic, you know, like telling you to RTFM, which stands for Read That Fine Manual. You know, some people are like that, and it's don't blame them. Don't blame them. Don't take it to your heart. Just go to someone else and ask your questions again. It's a whole world of helpful people, and I can guarantee you that if you don't pay attention to a couple of trolls out there, you're going to have a wonderful time with Linux. And for the end of this video, my outlook on Linux. I mean, I think that a lot of people will take this opportunity of the crossings between Windows 10 and 11 as a good driving mechanism to give Linux a try. And most of them will be pleasantly surprised with what Linux has to offer nowadays, especially if they don't stumble first on some kind of an idiot which will have the mission to make your life miserable, right? As a new person that's using Linux. Unfortunately, these people exist on any group of people. It is what it is, you know. Thank you very much for watching this video all the way through this. I am really thrilled to do all these videos. I love helping. I truly love helping everyone who asks. You know, if you ask a proper question, I will definitely give my best to give you an answer. If I cannot, my community will. If my community cannot, someone else's community will. It's a wonderful world of free software and mutual help. You know, it's that easy. It's just that easy. Thank you for liking with this video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining my channel. And please pay attention to the list of the people who are like my Patreons and supported. I love every single one of them.